Yes. Hi, everybody. Welcome and thanks for joining us for our IEA monthly webinar series. I've met most of you. Oh, hi, Dale. Just saw you there. I've met most of you before, and if not, it's nice to always have some new faces on the call to join us. These webinars are free for you to attend and free for you to host. So we're really happy to see that you found us. And if you would like to host an upcoming webinar, I'll put my contact information in the chat, and I would love for you to connect with me and talk to you more about that opportunity. Before I turn things over to James, our webinar speaker today, I just wanted to give a quick plug for the IEA conference. Hopefully you are seeing lots of communication from myself and the IEA regarding our upcoming conference that the IEA board is hosting this September in Las Vegas. We're going to be at the Tuscany Hotel and Casino, and it's going to be a great event. We have a tremendous lineup of speakers. You can find all the information available about it on the IEA website. And of course, check your inbox. All those emails come from me, so please read them and don't delete them right away. We've been introducing our speakers one by one. I think we're on the third one that we're introducing this week, so take a look at those. We also have a lot of sponsorship opportunities. If you have a business that you want to reach and market to the audience of other IEA business owners, then I'd love to talk to you about that as well. And we're getting ready to run a promotion where the person who brings, or the chapter that brings the highest percentage of their members to the conference is going to receive a free conference ticket. So be on the lookout for more information about that. And I'll stop blabbing about the conference now, since I know that's not what you came on to listen to. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to turn things over to James. I have a brief introduction that I'll share. James Mackiewicz is the owner of Crestcom, Nebraska, bringing over 35 years of leadership development training to the IEA. The Crestcom Leader Program is an innovative journey based on 12 fundamental skills CEOs expect from their leaders, world-renowned subject matter experts, and implementation plans that get results. He spent much of his career working with companies to help them realize the true potential of their people. He has been a main stage presenter at many industry conferences, facilitated smaller study groups, and done direct coaching with business owners. James is a native of Omaha, Nebraska, and believer in the power of community. He's a proud member of the Omaha Executives Association and volunteer for Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, and Nebraska Competes. During his free time, he attends Husker football games, enjoys concerts, and has fun exploring new restaurants. Take it away, James.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that intro. Let me make sure you've got this up. I really did hit the button.
Yep, you're sharing. You're good.
There we go. Are we sharing it appropriately?
It's yep, here it comes.
There it is. Yep. Okay, good. So again, Lisa, thank you for the introduction. Today we will talk about bridging the multi-generational gap. My contact info is up here. Connect with me on LinkedIn, reach out for follow-up stuff. I'll put this up again at the end. Right before we get off, I'll tell you a little bit more about Crestcom and what I do regular life. But today we're really going to take a look at this multi-generational gap that we have. Right now we've got 4 generations in the workforce, soon to be 5 generations in the workforce, all coming at things with different beliefs, perspectives, and experiences. And what we'll do today is take a look at where some of that stuff is appropriate to generalize, reasons why we shouldn't do that, and then what are those strategies to actually help us work within that generational pool of people. I'm going to stay here for just a second. No, actually, we're going to go. We're going to do this. Think about not your current self, but think about the changes that have happened in your life, and then eventually we'll think about the other people. So I want to ask, and anybody can raise their hand if they want. Lisa, I'll ask you, if somebody raised their hand, if you can unmute them or put something in the chat box. Think about this. When you were 15, how did you listen to music? I'm going to pause for a second to see if we get a volunteer to tell us how they listen to music.
I'll say I had a Walkman.
Okay, cassette tapes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Holly's shaking her head. She looks like an 8-track girl.
I had a reel to reel.
Oh, reel to reel. Okay,
Yeah.
I love that.
Uh-huh.
Reel to reel.
I had a transistor radio.
Okay, transistor radio, right? Is that where did you used to hold up the tape recorder to the transistor radio to try and get your favorite songs off the radio?
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think I had a recorder, but anyway.
Okay.
MTV, you know?
Yeah, MTV, right? Back when music television was music television, right? But think about it, it's such a common experience listening to music. And again, we could pick any topic we want, but think about how things have changed since you were 15, and think about the people that are probably in the workforce or in your business now that don't know anything but YouTube and streaming services, right? There are some people that grew up on records. I'm in that Walkman to CD generation, and I've had to evolve, and I've still got a big pile of CDs up in my closet that I still don't want to get rid of, that I'll never put into a CD player again. But as that's evolved, that's where I come from. You know, we've always, sometimes as we get older, we kid if we went back to stick shifts and cursive writing and rotary telephones, we could cripple half the country because they don't know any of that stuff. Uh, it makes us a little bit tougher, maybe, but it gives us a different perspective, just like it gives the younger generations a different perspective. Think about how you search for information at this point. Right now, I bet Google is probably the primary way that we're getting our information. At some point, you might have been on Ask Jeeves. You might have been going to the library, looking at old newspapers on microfiche, right? Whatever that is. Pretty soon, AI might drive everything we do to find information and to gather that. I don't know that I trust it fully right now, but I know we're seeing more and more of that artificial intelligence moving us forward to get that information. So I give you that setup because really, as we look at when we look at this today, we're going to look at the 5 generations that are around. And this slide's okay. It's a good slide, and I'll show you, but I added a second slide that might help. This might also be a point where if you got the email from Lisa, you probably had 3 attachments in that email. I can explain some of this. If anybody didn't get those, chat Lisa, and she can put them in the chat for you. One of them is in the middle of the words, says PG for participant guide. We'll use that going through. This will help guide some of the discussion, give you some good information. Then there's something that says HO1 and HO2. HO2 we won't use directly today, but it's too good of a resource for me not to give to you guys. HO1 we'll get to, and you can see at the bottom of the screen where it says, there's a little arrow and it says HO, that's for handout. So we'll use that as the basis of a lot of what we're doing, and you can see where these generations, at least 4 of them, are laid out on the handout. Gen Alpha, this born in 2013 to now to next year, they're the ones coming into the workforce the next 8 to 10 years. So we're gonna have to be ready for them. Gen Z, if this doesn't make me feel old, these are ones born in 1977, you can read the numbers. They're about 1/3 of the world's population and close to overcoming Gen Y in the workforce. Gen Y are the millennials. That's most of our workforce right now. Gen X, that's the innovator group. A lot of the technology that we're seeing now and a lot of the movements forward have come from Gen X. And then we've got the last generation, the baby boomers, right? And they've contributed so much to the growing businesses and just the modern world. And there's a lot of information to get from those people. And here's where I said I added a slide. I'm going to pop this up real quick. The way I learn and the way I think about things, I don't think about what year a person was born. I think about their age. So if these ages help, this might be something you want to jot down, either here or in the participant guide. But when I see Gen Alpha, I think, oh, 0 to 11. Okay, yeah, next 8 to 10 years, they're going to be coming into the workforce. That makes sense. Born in 2013 doesn't mean as much to me. So selfishly, I added this slide because I wanted to make sure those numbers were there. And then Lisa, I'm not checking the chat box, so I'm assuming you'll monitor that and pop in if necessary.
Yep, I gotcha.
Okay, good. So if you've got the participant guide, and if you printed it, great. I'm a paper kind of guy. I like having copies of stuff. But it's also designed to be, it's a digital PDF, so you can fill that out. But if you turn to the participant guide on page 2, you're going to see the 3 objectives for today. And then I'll explain something about the bottom of this page 2. So we're going to take a look at mindsets, values, and performance drivers. How does that relate to the business outcomes and everything else? And then most importantly, that third bullet point is, what do we actually do with this stuff? And I'm going to give you a little setup here, starting with the participant guide. So if you're on page 2 in the participant guide, you obviously see these bullet points at the top, but you also see this curious bit underneath with a picture of somebody that is not me. That's Mark Beal. And at Crestcom, all of our sessions are built on the subject matter experts that we partner with to create great workshops. I take some of these and take them down from 2-hour interactive sessions into 45-minute, hour-long webinars, lunch and learns. So we're still using the same great material from Mark Beal, and I didn't want to cut him out of this. I didn't want to edit the PDF and yank him out, because it's there. And if you want to follow somebody on multi-generational stuff, guy's got a podcast, multiple books. He's amazing at that. But what we've done is we've digested some of his best ideas to turn it into an interactive module. That's what we're going to do today. So even when we get in a little bit further, you're going to see some pages that say video 1, video 2. I'm not playing the videos for you. Again, we're truncating on time. But what I did was I filled in the answers for you in the PDF. So you've got the great highlights and bullet points. And then we'll go through and talk about some of the additional things that we would want to take from those sections as we build through the exercises in the participant guide. Last 2 points, we'll move off of this slide. There are plenty of times where I'm going to ask you to write in the participant guide or mark something on that handout 1. I believe it's more beneficial for you if you do that stuff. I'm not the webinar police, so you get out of this what you want to get out of this. You want to do that, fine. If you don't, but know that that's there. I'm going to prompt you for that. The other thing, just like you all hopped in and shared with that, how'd you listen to music when you were 15? There are going to be some other times where I might ask you, hey, you want to share an example? Tell us about a time that you did a thing. That makes these things so much more valuable to everybody else. And I hope if you're comfortable, you'll share some of your insights. So with that, as we look at mindsets, values, behavior, influence, all these shifts, really there are 3 things. If you look at page 3 in the participant guide, you're going to see some interesting numbers there. You're going to see some talk about the 4 different generations. But one of the key things to think about as we look at the different generations, and I know at least myself, as much as I try not to, I'm guilty of stereotyping by age, like, oh, that person wouldn't be good at technology because they're older than me or something like that. In the end, if we take a look at diverse workforces, most people think the diverse workforce, especially diverse by generation, is beneficial and productive. Conversely, a large number of people also say that mixing generations in the workforce actually causes problems and helps us lose productivity, causes us to lose productivity. So you've got both of those things going at the same time, and it's our job to figure out how do we use the positive side of things and limit the downside. Got a little ahead of myself on the stereotypes because I think this is such an important thing. There are generalizations we can make, but just like anything in life, we have to understand where a person's coming from, perspectives they bring, and see what they can actually do for us and with us, and don't dismiss somebody because we already think we know about them, how they're going to act, how they're going to work, what they value, what they don't value. Some of that's conversation, some of that's getting educated. And once we mix that stuff together, we can really focus on that positive aspect of having multiple generations in the workforce. And then lastly, and I think this goes along with the stereotype piece, just because it says one generation was from 1997 to 2012, it doesn't mean January 1st, 2013, all of a sudden you switch generations. There are lots of gray lines, there are lots of blurs. As you look at that generational preferences chart, handout 1, you can go through your generation and look at those different categories, and you'll see probably most things are pretty on target, but I bet if you look one way or the other, you'll probably find some preferences from other generations that fit you as well. But this gives us a starting point to try and understand where the other generations are coming from in a positive manner. So if you see on the bottom, again, there's the example. On the bottom of your screen, it says page 4. So if you're following along either electronically or on paper, what I want you to do is flip to that exercise, 1 challenge. And there are 2 things we're going to do here. And this is going to cause a moment of silence, but it's okay because, again, I think this is where there's some value in actually getting something out of this webinar. Think about a challenge that you have with someone in the workforce that's from a different generation or it's caused by generational differences. It can be about different perspectives, different standards, different motivations. It could be an employee that isn't comfortable from work from home and they think everything ought to be in person. It could be someone who has spent most of their working life at this point doing remote work, and they don't see the value of coming into the office. And regardless of, as I use 2 extreme examples, when you have that inflexibility or we don't understand where those people are coming from, it can harm relationships and lower our productivity. So I'm going to throw these 6 things up here. And I want you to take a look on page 4. You don't have to pick one of these, but these are good primers. Think about a challenge that you've got right now in the workplace that's caused by intergenerational differences. Circle it on your sheet or write it down. And then I'm going to pause for about 60 seconds while I take a drink. And I want you to write something or type something in that box at the bottom. Define what that one challenge is. Is it not getting productivity out of people? It's people not listening, people thinking they're entitled to something that they're not entitled to. I don't know what it is. Think about what that basic challenge is, and then I want you to articulate it in that box. And I will hush up for 60 seconds. Another 15 seconds to at least put some words down. That's what you're doing. Okay, at least gives you a little bit of time to put something in place. Does anybody care to share what that item is or what challenge they wrote down?
I can share.
Please, Ira.
Well, I'm a life coach and I work with a lot of businesses.
Okay.
business owners, and what I hear them tell me, and what I experience is two of the items you have, not motivated and unproductive, and unrealistic expectations.
Okay. And so did you articulate that into a different challenge underneath, or is it just those two just encapsulated it?
Those two encapsulated, yeah.
Awesome. And so they're talking about older people, of course, right? The boomers that they work with.
No, actually, they're not. And I knew you were going to smile.
I can be a little snarky. So good. Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, as a coach, life coach, and working with business owners, you're hearing these things, and they're probably bringing these challenges to you. So, and sometimes we articulate these this way, and sometimes we don't, especially when we're thinking about generational differences. So thank you, Ira. I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything they want to share? Or at least anything pop in the chat? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know if you're talking about, this is Holly, if you're talking about things like people making phone calls versus texting, if that is the generational, you said lack of engagement, but to me, that's face-to-face. People, they don't want to do the face-to-face. Just like when we got on here, it's like, oh, fine, I'll turn my camera on. Sorry.
You are like one of three people with their camera on. And again, that's okay. But you're right, but that can be a generational challenge where you just want to pick up the phone and hash something out, or walk down to somebody's office and just talk about something quickly. And instead it's this informal, quick text, whatever, where you lose information, and you certainly have a harder time building a relationship.
Yeah.
Is what I think. So good. I like that example. And we're going to come back to these examples. So Leanne.
Sorry, I was just interjecting, and I don't have my camera on because I just came back from the gym, and no one needs to see this. But I understand what you're saying, and a lot of I'm the owner, co-owner, and manager of our company, and I've had the company for over 30 years. So I'm 64 years old. So I'm going to be the baby boomer, the old dog in the room. What I'm finding right now, I'm transitioning to let the staff sort of take over a lot of the day-to-day operations, and I think I'm doing really well. One thing I'm having a hard time with is trying to find a way to teach or train the young employees, and I'm going to put this in the 18 to 30 bracket, to see things that they don't see. And I don't know if this is generational because it's not something I was taught, but if you drop something, pick it up. If it's on the floor, put it in the garbage. Like, I have a real issue with the kind of things that I'm supposed to instruct people on that I just think they should already know.
Yeah. Leanne, that's a great point. This brings you to one of my pet peeves, and I have a lot of them. And if anybody's ever in Omaha, I'll take you out for a drink and tell you about all my pet peeves. But one of them, and you didn't use this term, this is me using the term, is sometimes people are like, well, that's common sense. And to me, if it was common sense, everybody would do it. I think a lot of times it's about setting expectations and having clear communication. And as much as I'd like to think everybody else's parents taught them like they taught me, hey, if you see something on the floor, pick it up. You see some trash, throw it out. Be considerate of the next person up. You're right. There are a lot of people like that. And maybe we're seeing that more with the younger people. But that's where I think we've got an opportunity to partner with those people and set the expectation of, hey, we want this place to be clean and presentable at all times, right? It's not about picking up trash. It's about, this is representing you and your professional appearance, or however that is, and overtly telling people what you expect. And setting the example, which is, I think we all do a pretty good job of that. Sometimes we can all be a little bit better about just telling people, hey, You know, this is what we expect. Yeah, if we say we're having a meeting at 10 o'clock, we expect you to be in your seat and ready to be at the meeting at 10 o'clock and not wandering at 10:05 or running off to get a coffee, you know, whatever those things are. Because some people view time differently as well. And I think as we get to, and I'm gonna click this. If you go to this slide, as I'm trying to move this to make sure I've got what, there we go. If you see the understanding mindsets, you flip to page 5, but really pull out that handout. What we're going to go through, we're going to look at the mindsets of these people, right? And then you'll notice in each section there are four different areas of mindsets, right? So we might uncover something here, and this is the idea as we think about this challenge, and we'll keep coming back to it. If we understand what's motivating and making these people tick, it might change the way we approach them for any of these tasks or any of these challenges. So if you take a look at page 5, again, there's great information on there. I love the research at the bottom, but here's how I'm digesting it for you. There we go. If we put it down in a nutshell, again, you look at those drivers. With boomers, work is life. That is their goal. That's what's driving them. That has been their success. They're getting to the end of this so they can go get out of work and enjoy the rest of life. Gen X, back up a little bit younger, they're the live to work, right? They want to have the experiences. They want a good balance between work and life. Again, they're the ones that create a lot of the innovations, and a lot of the up and coming companies or big companies that we're seeing now are coming off of that Gen X that realize life and work can be part of the same thing. As we keep getting younger, and I think we've probably all seen this, the millennials want a purpose. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want, and we'll talk about this later, they want their values to be reflected in the companies they work with. And I think we all do, and there's some good research behind that. We'll touch on that a little bit, but that's driving the millennials even more so than a lot of the other generations. And Gen Z, they work so they can live. And they're in that experiential part of their life where, yeah, they know they got to work. They don't mind if they job hop. They don't necessarily see things the same way we all see things, because the job is not the life. The job is a means to an end. And that's what we see from these people a lot. If you take a look at that handout 1, there are 4 different areas that we can think about as far as the mindsets and how people are thinking. The career stage, technology, what success means, and how they view authority. Because if you take a look at those younger people, the way they view authority might actually inform us a little bit on why they do some of the things they do. And I think it does with all the generations. And Leanne, I think you actually helped us out a little bit. So if you think about this mindsets piece, and if you've been scanning, scanning is great on that handout. We have the example of people not just taking the initiative and getting things done. We've got Holly's example of, I don't want in-person meetings, I just want to text. What other generational preferences have you seen as you look across, you look at any of those columns there under mindsets, maybe with the younger generation, if we pick on them just a little bit? What kind of experiences have we had with those mindsets? Or has anybody? Maybe that's oh, Leanne, please.
Okay, sorry, I always raise my hand.
No, that's okay. I can't
my
see
oldness.
everybody. So
Okay.
yeah, so please.
Yeah. One of the things that since like I said a minute ago, I'm trying to transition some of my key staff into managerial positions, and they are of different generations. of 3 individuals who are taking over basically the operations. The youngest of the 3 would be mid-30s. What I realized, it took me actually during COVID to get to the bottom of it, is money is not the driver of, it is a driver, but it's not. So what I've realized with this generation, the 30, is they need a challenge. Like, you need to give them responsibilities that you may feel are greater than they can handle, and see how they do. Because I found that the more I let them figure things out on their own and come up with solutions, the happier they were and the more they wanted to take on, which surprised me a great deal, and how I had to change I had to stop being the control freak and just let people do things, and then be pleasantly surprised by how awesome they are.
I love that. And that, you know what, we could just stop the recording here, because if you take nothing else away from this, that's it, is realizing everybody wants to do a good job, right? Most people like to be challenged. And as long as you give, again, setting expectations and giving parameters when you delegate or you give a challenging assignment to somebody, and knowing that they can try it and failure's not going to get them fired or get them yelled at, a lot of times people will excel and they will surprise you. And you can really identify the leaders in your organization by the ones that really grab onto those things and move forward. The other thing to think about as we think of, you know, these mindsets, you know, you might have somebody, as these people are looking for increased job satisfaction, maybe they're looking for other jobs with better pay, because maybe it is a money thing, maybe it's not. But if we aren't willing to understand and flex just a little bit, what are the risks? What happens if we have to go rehire, retrain people? What if we have to go pay a higher market rate for somebody versus just aligning with the people that are working with us now? And it doesn't mean changing the company culture or changing our mission or anything else, but just being able to understand that, yeah, money isn't everything. They work because they have to work, because they want to go do other stuff. And if we can make that an environment where they get challenged, they feel welcomed and wanted, and they can make some money to go live their life, we can avoid a lot of the problems that people are seeing with turnover and everything else. So if you've got the generational preferences chart, you're going to see it looks like this. And really understanding those mindsets is going to help us out. This is where we flip a little bit between page 6 and the handout, and that's okay. But if you take a look, you've got all this information, you've taken a look at it. In this case, if you're looking on page 6, this is where we're going to start to build our challenge. First, make a guess that your challenge from before on, was that page 4, I think that was? From your challenge on page 4, what's the generation of the person you're looking at or you're dealing with? Now, you can't go ask people what their age is, but you can probably ask them how they listen to music when they're 15 and figure it out, or they'll tell you without you asking. So then you take a look at which one of these areas is impacting your challenge. Is it the career stage? Is it a technology issue? Is it a matter of success? Is it a matter of how they're looking at you as an authority figure? And even like we were talking before, if you look at this bottom left-hand corner, we were talking about setting expectations, picking things up, whatever else. Gen Z is going to keep pushing until somebody tells them, until somebody pushes back or somebody puts some expectations in place. They're just going to keep going because they want to improve things and they want to see that. But so as we look at this and we see that biggest challenge on page 6, let's say it was the technology proficiency, then you go across and figure out which of your generations is impacted by that, because you already identified what that generation was. And
James.
then, oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, it's Kathy Clayton.
Yeah, Kathy.
I'm a solopreneur, so I'm not working with a lot of people. I've got clients as a coach, a lot of these people across the generations.
Yeah.
I've had a conversation recently with a good friend who teaches intro to English for a community college. And when I made the comment that one of the things I respect about Gen Z is that they are digital natives, she very quickly clapped back on that.
Oh,
And
okay.
said that they're digital natives when it comes to using a very limited number of apps and their phone. They don't actually understand how to use technology. They have not been trained in technology. They don't know how to use the Windows suite. They don't know how to actually engage in business. And so I'm seeing Ira nodding his head. So I'd be really curious to hear from other people if that has been their experience working with fresh out of school college graduates, Gen Z. Are they equipped to actually come in and get to work?
That's interesting. Yeah. And anybody have any other input on that, supportive or refutive?
I was participating in designing the event management program for St. Clair College on the program advisory committee for that. It's a postgraduate course, so you have to have graduated from college or university in order to enroll in this class. And yeah, I was shocked, and I'm still shocked at the limited, again, kind of going back to what I was saying in the first place, but yes, that's absolutely true. If you were to put them at a desktop and want them to use regular email and regular spreadsheets, very few are prolific at that point. Also, they can't calculate square footage in their heads and a lot of different things that are 101 in events. So it was eye-opening. I again need to lower the bar on expectation.
That, you know what, that's a great point. And again, here it is with stereotypes, right? Digital natives. Kathy, I think you're right that yeah, they were born with an iPhone. I use this for my timer. They were born with an iPhone in their hand. They understand apps and swiping technology and all that stuff. But when it comes to actual productive things, like you said, Microsoft Suite, for instance, can they calculate square footage? Do they know how to open up Excel and make a spreadsheet? That might not be the case. They probably need that training. And that's something that even through the interview process, we need to dig into to see it as a separate topic. But are we getting, we can't assume they know how to do all those things when we just have a lot of examples where they can't.
Yeah.
I think we have to assume they can't do those things. I
Right.
think there needs to be, we have to come at it from that perspective that says we're going to have, I mean, much like colleges had to introduce basic math because kids weren't getting what they needed in high school. So colleges had to go back and do that pre-work. I think businesses now have to actually figure that out. And the same friend, the advice she is giving to people going off to college is learn the Office suite of tools and
Great
become
advice.
proficient at that. And so I think colleges need to start bringing that in. And for those of you hiring people, that's got to probably be part of your education as you're bringing on new people.
Yeah. And having that expectation that these people might not have that, and that just has to be built into your, if you want to get the young people or bring people in as interns or fresh out of college, yeah, that might have to be part of your onboarding process or part of your first 6 months of training, that kind of thing.
I like to just add a really quick observation.
Please.
I hear all of what you're saying. I have encountered high schoolers that are very, very well educated in their use of technology and apps, but the fundamental application of technology that we're just talking about, Microsoft Office, etc. Yes, they're not as proficient, but in their mind, those are not really fundamental skills they need to have. I have STEM students from high school that have just developed things that I couldn't even imagine with their technology. But yes, they probably can't do a good write-up. But that's where we need to set our expectation.
Right. I think they'll eventually figure out how to they use them at the time and place where they're at. So I have a 21-year-old working for me, which is my daughter. So she just got out of college, and yes, some of the things you don't realize they don't know. I mean, fax machine, what's a fax machine?
Yeah,
So,
right?
you know, some of the things are like, oh my gosh, what? Wait, do we really have to go back to this? So yeah, but yet with their college, I think they had to use Office for some of their stuff. That's how they operated on their back stuff at their college. So it depends on the college, depends on the kid.
Yeah, and I've seen it both ways. And I've had people approach me, or I've had friends' kids that are in that 21-ish age, like Holly's daughter, that will ask for help. And at least they know to ask for it, but they'll ask for help on something that I'm just shocked. You don't know how to put together a spreadsheet, for instance, was one of the ones that happened that I had to help with. So that's a good point to remember, that especially specifically with this digital native thing, that we can't assume just because you're good with and you understand technology and you can make sure every TV in the house is in sync, that you can actually open up Word and produce a document or a write-up on something. So that's great. I'm going to move off of this slide. I love the discussion, so we can keep doing this, but take a quick look at page 6. If you haven't, if you mark the generation, again, just at least food for thought for later. Think about what that mindset is that might be affecting your challenge from before. And then if there's a positive outcome from understanding that mindset. So with me, it was somebody career stage and what success means. They want to grow, they want to add value, so they're looking for advancement. With me, if I challenge them with stretch work, I give them more opportunities, and I just need to ask. So as I flip to this next page, if you take a couple notes there, even if we don't complete this today, I want it to be there for you to give you this framework, because this will keep building as we go. Yeah, and I'm giving a little I was given a hush as I was seeing pens up. So as we continue, as we go past mindset, we're going to look at the aligning values. And again, this stuff's on page 7, but here are some of the highlights. And these are a couple things 3 things I really want to hammer home. First, 3 numbers: 72, 46, and 52. 72% of employees say work gives them a feeling of personal accomplishment when their values align with the business's values. 46% of employees say they are considering leaving their current employer because their values do not align. Just like any study we see on diversity in any way, shape, or fashion, once you get a variety of people involved with a variety of skill sets and mindsets and values, it improves the business. It improves the business. We get more profitability, we get more productivity, which leads to keeping people around. If we can make sure we're aligned with our employees, we understand where they're coming from. Sometimes we meet them where they're at. Again, digital natives that don't know how to use the productive technology we want them to use, and we can figure that out. That gives us less turnover, less rehiring, less firing, and the ability to grow our businesses the way we want. And I gave all that to you. Did I miss anything on that slide? This is a are we paying attention trick. Okay, Holly's got a yes. Does she know? No, you're muted, Holly.
There's only 2, I don't know where that 3% goes, sorry, but you've got.
Yep, 72% say they love it when their values align. 46% say they want to leave. 52% of employees said they would take a lesser paying job if they went to a company where their values aligned with their own. 52% of people would be willing to take a pay cut to go work somewhere that matches up with them. So what does that mean to us? You don't have to be competing on price necessarily, because we know in the end, if you're competing on price, that becomes a problem. You're going to lose people. And if people want to work for you, you don't have to worry about that ever escalating arms race of hourly or salary money for your employees. You don't have to compete on the price, the culture and the values fit. And that's that 52. So Holly, thank you for playing along. I appreciate that. There are plenty of times where I say I'm going to hit 3 things and I do only hit 2. So that could have been one of them, but this one was on purpose because I think that 52 is huge. Half of the workforce would take a pay cut to feel better about working somewhere else. And I think it's an obnoxiously large number. So at the bottom of page 7, we think about what are those values that work across the 4 generations. And again, if we look at, and I'm just moving you pictures around, right? It's purpose, it's environment, it's respect, it's work life. We don't say balance, we say integration. But in the end, even we look at this Gen Z, I think this matches up with a lot of what we believe about those younger people. They're seeking the truth. They're human focused. They think giving equals getting. Versus if you look at the boomers, think about a boomer that's on salary that works 60 hours per week. Can you imagine that employee coming and saying, well, I work 20 extra hours every week. You should just give me extra PTO, or you should pay me a bigger bonus because I put in more hours. It's probably not going to happen. Where Gen Z is more of the, hey, I gave something extra, I need to get something back in return. Quid pro quo. It's not always going to be like that. That's not exactly the case across all people. But we can see where some of those generational preferences come into place. So has anybody had this? You know, I know, Kathy, you said, you don't have to unmute for this. I'm just using you as the example. You said as a solopreneur, you're not dealing with employees. Has anybody in their workforce or maybe even across their client base seen some of these different values where it's obvious the Gen Zer versus the Gen Xer?
I have lots of clients who talk about their Gen Z clients coming in and having an expectation that they should just start at a level for which they are not qualified. And that they just have an expectation that they should get what they want. Now, again, this is not everybody, because I know there's plenty of really good Gen Z folks who I've interacted, I have as clients. But I think there's an expectation that they should just be able to, that they should just get what they want, not have to work for what they want, not have to demonstrate that they've earned it.
Yes. And again, I always think it's fun with this module, as I say it multiple times, hey, don't stereotype, but we are looking at preferences and generational commonalities. And you're right, and I've seen that. And it's not saying that they're bad workers or anything else, or they don't deserve the chance to move up. But yeah, there is some of that. Hey, I showed up, I've seen other people with this level of success or money or title, and I should get that too, even before they have put in the time or the effort or proven themselves.
Or take that one in another direction. I found, I've noticed a lot, there's a great deal of scorekeeping too. Like, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in or how much better you were, if so-and-so got a raise, or I was here longer than him, or it's like, it makes things very difficult to be on a performance reward system or try to present that way when there's this sense of entitlement. Well, I was here a week longer than that guy, and I should get more money than him.
Yes. Yeah, and some of that's on us as the managers to set that expectation, to have the tough conversation. But yeah, there is a lot of that coming up, and that's that giving equals getting. Like, well, I was here a week longer, I should be making more money, whatever that is. If you're following along on the handout / page 7, if you think about that challenge that you have with your particular generation, I'd mark off the factor that matches up. So again, if it was work environment and Gen Z, I'd mark off human focused on my handout. And then but by the time before we wrap, I'll tell you about handout 2 as well. I don't have a slide for it, but you'll get it. It'll be very intuitive if you haven't printed it out. I'm gonna move to that third section, that performance section. Again, you can look at page 8 in the participant guide. Again, a lot of great information. At some point, go back. I'd fill in the 2 questions on the bottom of page 7. That'll help guide you as you attack this challenge that you have. But I want to get into performance. With boomers, they don't mind being challenged as long as the expectation is set. They don't want the goalposts moved on them. They don't mind having to work extra hard as long as they know what's going to come from that. Gen X, they're the ones that have really figured out, again, that beautiful mix between personal and professional life and having them blend together. And professionally, they're the ones really hitting their stride. They're the ones looking for the extra challenges. They're the ones looking to take over for the boomers as the boomers retire out. And you've got a real good chance, especially with the boomers, but also with Gen X, to be mentors for the younger groups as they're coming up. As we get younger, the millennials are seeing what Gen X has and are really trying to go after that. They want that level of competence and life balance. They've gotten past that Gen Z mentality of, oh, I just deserve it now. They see what that hard work and that dedication to excellence can get them, and they're starting on that path. And Gen Z, like we saw in one of those other slides, they're going to keep pushing until somebody pushes back. They want everything to be improved. They see what a better life or a better business can be. And they're going to keep driving for that and opening their mouths for that until we give them some guidance or tell them not to do it. There's a beautiful energy in that if we understand they're not complainers, let's say, but they're people that really want to make positive, impactful change, we can harness that energy and actually move our businesses and ourselves forward through that energy that we might not all have at this point. It's as we continue to grow and age, quite honestly. So those are the 4 areas of performance. And you can go back to that handout. Again, you can mark on there which area of performance affects your biggest challenge. And I'm going to skip past this. I want to walk you through. We're running low on time, so I want to walk you through this. And I would say I apologize, but I love the discussion that we've had, and I should have built in more time for that. I wasn't sure. So if you're taking a look at your biggest challenge, what you're going to see is page 10 of your participant guide brings this all together. So the number 1 on your participant guide on page 10 is your biggest challenge from page 4. If you go back to page 9 in the aligning values section, you identified the area that would affect your biggest challenge. And you can put that, hold on. Let me go back one. Biggest challenge, aligning values. Yeah, and you can see where those are marked. Same with the driving performance section. And if you're looking at that biggest challenge piece, you also want to put your business outcomes on number 2. So if I can address my biggest challenge with this generation, what am I going to get from actually addressing that and aligning values, mindsets, or performance with those people? As I feel I've just word burgered that up, I'm going to get to here and show you this. So if you're one challenge, lack of engagement during weekly meetings, business outcome be better productivity. I forget who the generation is. Then you see at the bottom of page 10, if you have it on landscape, you can go straight to that understanding preferences chart and just write in, hey, this mindset thing, it's from their career stage, and it's because they prefer nonlinear career paths to gain experience and learn. With values, it's respect, giving, and getting. And you can fill those things in directly. That's just to copy it from the chart to put it onto page 10. And I'm going to pause, see if there are any questions on that, as I'm conscious of time. Okay. Here's one bit of homework I have for you. I built this in because I thought maybe we'd be able to talk about this out loud. As you've got your challenge and you're trying to figure out what the next step is, you all have beautiful, engaged executive associations, and you probably have friendships that you've built in there. Grab one of those people and ask them what their thoughts are on the challenge that you're facing. Because in the end, at the bottom of page 10, you want to fill in what are you actually going to do about this to address this challenge. So if we're trying to figure out their career stage problem, we understand the respect, we know that being in meetings on time is a problem. How do we actually do that? You can come up with these ideas on your own, or you can ask somebody else for some input. If you want somebody to bounce some of this stuff off of, reach out to me. I'm happy to walk you through this. I wanted you to have this tool so you can go back to that chart and actually fill in the blanks here on the bottom. Handout number 2 is very similar to the preferences chart, except it's double-sided, and it gives you leadership actions for each of the areas. So you've got, if you don't want to brainstorm your own idea, you can take a look at each of these areas and each of these stages, and there's a leadership action that will probably help you be more successful in that area. There are some examples. With that, I'm going to pause for questions and then do a quick wrap before we get out of here.
Thanks, James. I'm just going to add a really quick addendum to your recommendation about reaching out to your exec associations. I think each one of us has an executive association that's culturally positioned to help us, because your association in Nebraska has a different culture than mine in Hawaii. I think they'll probably provide a better resource relevant to where we are.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And they know, they get it. Just like Holly's on this call, and I'll talk with her afterwards. She's got that Omaha culture versus that Honolulu culture or wherever. So totally agree. I'm going to go, we really did all this. There is a
Thank you,
page that,
James.
oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, please go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say thank you. I have to log off, so. I
You're welcome
appreciate-
to take a look at the action plan at the end of the participant guide.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Kathy. In the end, there's an action plan, third to the last page, and there are examples of what to do. Whether it's from the discussion, the chart, the solving your one challenge, whatever that is, find something that you can take from this today and commit to putting it into action. That's what the action plan is at the end of this module. I'm going to go through, and if anybody wants to reach out, give me a call, email, text, connect with me on LinkedIn. We post a lot of this stuff on a regular basis, and I'm happy to continue this this conversation further if anybody wants to. Otherwise, I'll let you all go, or I'll hang out for questions if anybody has anything before they get off.
Thanks so much, James. Appreciate the content. And please know this will be posted on the IEA YouTube channel later this week. So if you want to go back and watch it or share it with a colleague or anything, that's the place to do it.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the participation.
James, I wanted to share something with you that's very interesting that
I love it.
and I read this as an article a while back, and I wish I had clipped it. But they said a successful company is one that can help the employees in such a way that it prepares them to leave the company. Okay.
Yes.
And so they said by providing the employees with enough resources and the goals and the purpose that they're seeking, that will help them stay versus looking for somewhere else, which is really kind of interesting. And some of it has to do with, like we just talked, the group just talked about the fact that maybe because of their own upbringing, they don't know how to pick up a piece of paper off the floor, right?
Yep.
But if the company is able to provide them with, and I love some of my corporate clients, even though I'm not in consulting in that area, but some of my corporate clients have provided financial planning classes, health classes, and I know that back in the days, there was Silicon Valley companies that were providing etiquette classes for their techie guys because they. Right. And
yeah,
so
you find the gap and you fill it, right?
Right, exactly. So I think that's a really interesting concept that I don't think anyone has ever think of, just to provide them with enough purpose and training and understanding about different areas of life, so that they're totally prepared to continue with the company and they don't want to leave the company. So
right.
Anyway,
yeah, no, I think I love that, and I love that holistic approach. And you're right. If we make the environment such that we're appropriately challenged, we have growth opportunities, we feel like we're being fulfilled, why would we ever leave? You'll have people for life, and that's tough to have right now. But I love the insight. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and from my generation, the boomers on, that doesn't make sense to us.
Yeah. It's a different world. It is like, no, there's a job and a paycheck and go to it, right?
Yeah.
The world is evolving.
So it's like, it's not our fault that your parents didn't bring you up the right way. But, so a good company needs to be a sort of surrogate parent of some sort, It's all psychologically.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I think you're right on target.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, James, thanks again for your time. It was very insightful, and too bad I was the only one from Hawaii attending.
Yeah.
But
you know what?
I'll recommend them to watch the recording.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if you got any more questions, again, reach out. I'll also say what we do. We're international. Like, I own Crestcom, Nebraska, but we do virtual and in-person management leadership training stuff. So again, you want to bounce something off of somebody, or you want to put somebody in contact, either I can help them out or
yeah, well, I think the best way I can do for our executive association is to recommend people to watch the video, and if they feel that what you offer fits them, I think they'll reach out.
Yeah, perfect. Good. If there's anything I can ever help with, let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you for your time.
We'll talk again. You bet.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha.